All right, I'm on another property here. This is the smallest of my properties that I'm allowed to be on. This is basically 40 acres, a back 40, an old home place. And I've had more luck over the last 10 to 15 years at this particular spot than any other place I've run up until this last fall. And just over that way about 80, 90 yards, I've got another camera set in a different spot that actually did better than this spot this past fall. But um, I run a couple mock scrapes here and used to get a lot of deer activity. I've got a couple more cameras down in a clearing that's growing over. I don't know if you can see it too much down there, but there's a clearing that's growing up. I've got a couple cameras down in there. So I had 4 cameras here total. I'll get this decoy pulled in this camera and take you over and show you that last camera over there. It's a really good spot. All right, here I am at that last spot. I've got the other 3 cameras pulled. Um, this is the mouth of a hollow where I killed one of my 2 bucks last year. It's just a little opening that runs up into the woods. It used to be a little bit prettier and during the winter that pine tree fell down, but I'm not going to complain because I got some videos, some really nice bucks that were coming in working that, eating something off of it right after it fell. But I need to get it cleared out of here now. Um, but I thought about putting this into a food plot, and I'm still thinking about it. Just not this season, but it's something that I'm thinking about doing in the future. I got a decoy set out. This is, again, the first spring I've ever monitored this little opening. So hopefully we got something good in here. Well, I noticed whenever I come up, start taking the camera down that right here had a green stem. I'd already ripped it off, but it had a green stem coming down in front of the lens and all. So that'll definitely fill up the SD card. And I hope I got something before that happened, but I'm sure the card's full and the batteries are probably dead. Just the motion from that dancing around plus the obstructed view. But this has been here for, a couple months, so it might have got something before that grew up in front of it. All right, so I'm headed to my last property, which is much larger than this one. I've got, I think, 7 cameras set on it. I really like this property though. I've been on both of these, the one I'm going to and this one, for about the same amount of time, but I've made some tremendous memories back here hunting with my dad. I've become very good friends with the landowner. This, in fact, right here in front of us, right here, I've jumped turkeys off the nest, and I jumped a deer in here a little while ago, so I'm sure she's probably got a fawn laid down in the grass. A lot of fawning goes on in that clearing, growed up clearing, which is exactly what they like for fawning. But you know, you don't have to worry about anything getting brush hauled back here. Now that I'm leaving, nobody else will be back here until probably September. All right, I'm at the last property here at the first camera. I lived up at the top of the hill there for about, well, it was over 10 years, just barely over 10 years. Made a lot of great memories back here on this property, and I'm blessed to be able to still be on it. I've got some cameras set here. I got 7 of these. These are the, I don't generally put cheap cameras on private property, but I was kind of demoing them because I want to use them on public land starting this upcoming deer season. But these are Muddy brand cameras. They only cost $29.99. I've got, I believe, 7 of them here. So a lot of people ask me why I put this on a lot of my cameras, and the reason is bears. Bear will come in from the bottom here and want to sniff. They're very curious. They want to sniff and nudge and put their mouth on your cameras. And if you kind of put some metal here for them to put their mouths on, they put their mouths on that metal, or they can't get a good angle to get their snout in there on that camera. They just give it up and go on. They're pretty lazy. They're curious, but they're lazy. So get this camera pulled and go check out the other locations. Talking about bears, it looks like something's knocked over and bent the rods on my decoy here. I actually, stake these things down. I got a rebarb, thin rebarb right there, the regular stake that comes with the decoy, and then I run 1/8 inch cable over to a 1/2 inch rebarb stake, anywhere between, a foot long and 18 inches long, depending on how hard the ground's going to be. And that's just to keep bears and stuff from, it's one thing to tear up my decoy, but oftentimes they'll want to take it away from here to go play with it. So it's just to keep them from stealing my decoys. Alright, so I'm making my way down the point to the next 2 cameras. I run 2 cameras down on this point. I've had a tremendous amount of activity over the years down here. I actually had permission from the previous landowner to be down here as well, so I've been down on this property for a very long time. So I had a buck that would show up down here on my trail cameras before we moved from up here. And is the biggest buck I've ever, the biggest, oldest buck I've ever gotten on video, and still is to date, although I have one that is a contender. I mean, if he shows up this upcoming fall, he might be as big and as old, I'm not quite sure, as when I first come across a buck I call Base that lived down here. I called him Base because he looked like he was probably a 5 or a 6-year-old when I first started getting him on camera, and the bases of his antlers were just huge. I got video of Base for 5 years after that, and I believed him to be a 5 or 6 year old buck when I first started getting them. So I got some people that watch these trail cam videos on my channel that send me messages and asking about Base, and they've been asking a lot, what's going on with him. And I have to say that this past fall was the first fall I haven't gotten him on video. So believing that he was probably, at least 11, probably 12 years old, I believe he aged out, probably died of old age. I say that because I know he survived the season before, because I got an amazing video bite of him back at the camera location we just left. And that was in January, so I know that he survived. And then he just didn't show up that fall, so I believe he just aged out. I only laid eyes on that buck one time while crossbow hunting. He was probably 65 to 70 yards away, and that's just not a shot I was willing to take. He was downhill of me, and he had stepped out of a really defined edge to a bedding area where there's open woods, and then there's a really thick edge to it. Even in the winter, the vegetation all makes it have a defined edge when the vegetation's even off. And he had stepped out. Of course, there's still vegetation during bow season, but he had stepped out of it, just no distance at all, maybe 10, 12 yards. Kind of stood and kind of surveilled the ridge I was sitting on. Nose down to the ground a little bit, but I don't think he ate anything. And then he just turned around and tiptoed back into the thick edge of the bedding area. That was the only time I ever seen him. But he was a magnificent buck, and had a lot of good memories running cameras down here and getting some stuff on him. And you can see him, and if you go back in the channel and look at some of the previous trail cam stuff. So I'm down here now where I have one camera set on a decoy right over there, and then I have another camera set here on some bleach bones. I want to show y'all something I do at a lot of my cameras. Besides putting these metal tree stand screw-in steps in, I also use these door stoppers, cheap door stoppers you get from Walmart. And I'll put them on the tree and then strap the camera, and it gives it kind of that downward angle that you want. Because deer don't even stand very tall. I mean, they don't stand much taller than a large dog. So it kind of gives you that downward angle. And they're cheap. They don't cost hardly anything. They really work out well. I don't see it or not, but there's my tree stand down there. But anyway, I just wanted to give you all that tip. Just something to think about as far as, you know, something that's cheap, lightweight, you know, a couple dollars, and can help you a little bit with the positioning of your trail cameras. All right, so this is the end of the 3rd week of May. We had a really warm weekend. Temperatures got up in the 90s, and then a cool front come in. Of course, when that cold air hit, it caused some weather to hit, and it dumped about 2 inches of rain on us throughout the day yesterday and overnight last night. So this morning, it's, you know, cooler temperatures, you know, maybe upper 50s. And even though everything is really wet, it feels like low humidity. So it's a beautiful morning to pull cameras without getting too hot. All right, I'm here at one of 2 creek crossings on this property where I run cameras. And I want to say one of the reasons why I like this muddy camera, besides the fact that it's really cheap, is because you never know. I mean, bears tear them up like crazy, and on public ground I got to worry about camera theft. But I liked it because I don't have to put any kind of locking mechanism in addition to what I generally utilize to hold cameras to trees, which is this Python snake cable. Master Lock has this Python snake cable, and it's what I generally use to keep cameras on the trees. But with this particular camera, it also locks people from access to the inside of the camera. So it has a dual purpose there. The cables cost about 20 bucks, and with the camera costing 30 bucks, you know, I got $50 in this setup. That's a heck of a lot better than having you know, a $200 Browning setup destroyed by a bear or stolen by somebody on public ground. All right, I'm at the other creek crossing location. This one generally gets more activity because it's this is the main road that the landowner uses to patrol the property, so it's a maintained road to a certain degree, and the wildlife like to run it. Alright, I'm at the last camera, which is the hardest one to get to. It is straight up the ridge for a long ways and very steep. And run into something again you just can't anticipate, and that's what the vegetation is going to do. And in front of this camera, got a bunch of limbs and such. So I guarantee that has either filled up my camera card, or else the batteries are dead before the camera card ever got filled up. Usually the batteries last longer than the card, but hopefully I got something good here before all that happened. Again, the camera's been here for a couple months, or just shy of a couple months. And this is a location here. It's old. I believe it was an old hunting camp here, right there. But it's a three-way intersection, and always animals coming through here. I've gotten so much stuff over the years here. I just don't run this location as much as I probably should, just because it's so hard to get to. I mean, it's straight up. But we'll get this one pulled and get down off this ridge. I'll tell you what, I ain't no little feller. I'm 6'1", 210 pound, 50-year-old man. And you can see how steep this is. And I'm only about halfway down off the ridge. And I climb all the way up this thing to check a couple cameras. That's a testament to how much I like running trail cameras. I don't know if y'all can hear that down there, but there's must be a crow's nest with some babies or something. Something down there just squawking, going crazy. Oh, I'm headed out.